Okay, let's dig into the sources you shared on this whole world of hacker and cybersecurity podcasts. Our goal for this deep dive is really to get a handle on this, audio landscape,
Yeah.
see what makes certain shows influential, according to the material anyway, and figure out where that specific program you flagged fits in.
Yeah, and the first thing that just jumps out from the sources is the sheer number of them. It's kind of overwhelming, actually. The research points to these really long lists, massive growth in the area. So finding the ones that are genuinely impactful or just, relevant to you, that's definitely a challenge.
Absolutely. And the material is pretty clear that defining top is, well, it's subjective, isn't it? But the sources you pulled together, they did use a set of criteria to try and gauge standing. Things like awards, getting onto best of lists, listener ratings, download numbers, audience size overall, how long a show's been around, consistency.
Right. Consistency is key.
And crucially, this sort of perceived expertise of the hosts running the show.
Exactly. And when you apply those metrics, you start to see this really interesting, diverse range of podcasts rise to the top based on the sources. Some are big on narrative storytelling, like Darknet Diaries. The data highlights its high download numbers and just really compelling stories.
Heard great things about that one. Then you've got the shows focused squarely on, timely news and analysis.
Yeah, Risky Business comes up there, a really long-running, respected voice in the industry, according to the research.
Okay.
And if you want the super technical stuff, the real deep dives, the sources point towards pioneers like Security Now, known for just incredibly detailed explanations.
Right, getting into the weeds.
Definitely. But then there's a totally different vibe, too. Shows blending humor with cybercrime news, like Smashing Security. That one's award-winning, apparently over 10 million downloads noted in the material.
Wow, okay. It's amazing how varied it is. The sources also mention podcasts looking at history, like Malicious Life.
Historical perspectives, and others focusing on the human element, which is huge. Think Hacking Humans or the Social Engineer podcast. They're all about that angle.
And even investigative journalism making its way into podcasts here, with shows like Click Here picking up awards for their narrative.
Yeah, exactly. And, the list goes on. Some look at technical vulnerabilities, but with a more irreverent style, like Paul's Security Weekly.
Yeah.
And you even have this really authentic voice from, traditional hacker culture, tied to things like 2600 magazine Off the Hook. Super long running.
That really shows the depth, doesn't it? From the very technical to storytelling to history.
Yeah.
Okay, so that paints a picture of a wide spectrum of shows that are considered influential based on these sources. Let's pivot now to that specific show, Cyber Midnight Club, which the sources also noted is sometimes called dark web today. Its focus is stated as hackers, cybersecurity, the dark web, and there's a heavy emphasis on the host, Alberto Daniel Hill, and his pretty unique personal story involving alleged wrongful imprisonment.
Right. And when we look at the standing of this show, based on the data in the sources, it's quite a contrast. The available info points to a very small reported audience, on one platform at least. Like the snapshot mentions just 5 listeners overall on Good Pods.
5? Okay, that's tiny compared to the others mentioned.
Yeah. And it also noted an unusually high episode frequency. There are hundreds of episodes released really quickly. But the main thing is, it just doesn't show up in those broader industry best of compilations or the lists the sources use to rank the others.
That is a stark difference. So based purely on the research provided, the assessment is that Cyber Midnight Club comes across as a very niche podcast. It doesn't seem to rank among those top-tier shows if you're measuring by widespread popularity or the kind of metrics the sources highlighted.
Exactly. Its main distinction, according to this analysis, really seems to be almost entirely driven by the host's unique personal story and background. And, that difference between broad appeal, maybe driven by metrics, and that deep niche appeal from a unique perspective. That's kind of the takeaway here. Understanding this whole diverse landscape from the big storytelling shows to these very specific personal narratives, that's what really helps you, the listener, find content that actually clicks with your interests.
Right, whether it's the tech, the human side, the history.
Precisely. Or those unique stories. And it definitely encourages, thinking critically about the data, who the hosts are, the voices behind the content you consume.
Yeah, definitely. And this whole world of audio, it's always shifting, isn't it? Finding the right shows for you isn't really a one-shot deal. It's more like an ongoing process, discovering, filtering. Critically listening is vital, for sure. But maybe also think about engaging with the communities that sometimes build up around these shows. There can be a whole other layer of insight there, beyond just listening.